From We Are Spectacular, this is the Spectacular Marketing Podcast, a podcast about everything brand, marketing, digital and social for the food and drink industry and beyond. I'm just travelling on the train from Brighton to London Victoria, and we're almost pulling into Victoria Station. And on the way in, I did notice that huge billboard that sits on the tracks to your right-hand side as you're coming into Victoria. And you do wonder, does anyone look at outdoor and media these days anymore, especially with the advent of the mobile phone? Today's episode is with Adam Shoefield, and Adam runs and founded an amazing media agency called Smithfield. Adam has been my media guy since the lastminute.com days many years ago, and has always helped and advised me and my clients in terms of how to get the right attention in the right place at the right time to serve up brilliant creative, hopefully. Adam has years and years of knowledge, and he's not just well versed in media, he's also well versed in business, and he's a serial foodie too. Adam has lots to say today about media, about the food and drink industry, and also what you can do to get started to go above the line and make that leap into brand fame, brand success, and driving more sales to your business. We kick off where Adam's getting straight into the basics about media, and also starts getting into the food and drink industry, and also all of the channels that are giving best value for money. Welcome to Adam Shoefield.
Hi Mark, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So we've known each other for 10-ish years maybe?
You're gonna give it away now.
Something like this?
A long time, yeah.
Something like this. So you were always my media guy at lastminute.com, and we've been through literally thick and thin together. Lots and lots of capers we've been up to, and japes and crazy briefs and all sorts of stuff. And you know, the thing I always really enjoyed about, you know, working with you as my media planner and strategist and all these things was you always had something quite fly on the go. You know, you always had this new thing or this new piece of technology, or you know, and it was always really exciting rather than just getting the out of the box usual media plan. You were the first person I think that ever even mentioned Spotify to me. I think, you know, you presented advertising on Spotify to me, and all right, it didn't get through because people were like, what's Spotify? But yeah, I was just always like, oh, he's so ahead of the game, you know, so wise, and it always had something new and exciting to give, you know.
I think as an agency, our job is to be the eyes and ears of our clients. And I'm very keen that my team see as many media owners as is physically possible. And I know there is, it's all too easy to entrench yourself in your day and look at that to-do list and go, I'm really busy. I am so busy. And I've got all these tasks to do, I've got all these plans to deliver, and I've got to do all these really important things, and I'm really busy. But fundamentally, our job is to represent our clients, deliver best value for clients, and to come up with ideas for clients so that they can sell their product, whatever that product may be. And if we're not on top of the industry, the marketplace, what's going on, how are they going to be? And I think any agency or marketing person that hides from people trying to sell to them are missing an opportunity. Yes, most of it you'll never use, but actually it's this idea of sparking a new idea or a new thought, or combining three separate non-connected ideas that create one amazing idea. But you're not going to do that unless you're out there doing it. But I think, you know, with my consumer hat on, it's exactly the same. I love being sold to.
Yeah.
Not when it's bad, but when somebody's a good salesperson and they connect with me. Yeah. I'm a sucker. I'm there with my wallet out going, I'll have two of those. Please.
Yeah. And I'm with you on that. And I actually buy products sometimes because I think that marketing team have done such a good job, and I feel like they deserve the sale. You know, it's kind of like a given to a charity. You know, it's just like, I really think they deserve it. I want their figures to go up because they've done such a good thing. And yeah, it's so weird that we're in it every day, yet we're still, you know, super suckers for a good piece of A, advertising, or B, placement.
And you know, I think we all see the big stuff, you know, and having come through large agencies and worked on larger accounts, even though sometimes there's good thinking in it and there's good strategy, when you are spending millions of pounds on marketing, what you're going to have is lots of reach.
Yeah.
And a lot of things we do is helping clients deliver effective reach so that they can share their messaging with a broader audience. And that's much harder to do on smaller budgets. And I know when we talk about local marketing, hothouse marketing, or individual location marketing, that's a challenge. How do I get effective delivery without wastage within a very tight area? And that takes multimedia approach, cross-fertilisation is much harder to do. The big budget stuff, yes, it's easier to get wrong creatively because what you've got is distribution of message. Now, if the message doesn't connect with the audience, they're not going to react. The challenge we have on smaller budgets, it's not only do we have to find the audience, but then we also have to make sure the creative is effective at the same time, which can be difficult.
So if we rewind right back in time, you know, you taught me the real basics of media, right? So when I came to see you, I didn't even know what a 6-sheet really was. And I'd sort of blagged my way through the lastminute.com marketing team because actually it was something that was lacking at university. You know, there was never a course that we had about media planning and buying, which seems crazy. So, you know, for people, you know, listening and they're thinking, I have a business problem, I want, you know, my brand to be more awareness, or I want my restaurant to be busier, or I want to sell more gear, you know, whatever it is, where do you start? What's the basics?
I think, and a lot of the work we do together actually when we're working on new clients, start with the customer. And we all talk about knowing the customer. And you can probably give me a pen portrait of who the customer is. But when I talk about knowing the customer, I'm talking about knowing who they are, where they live, how they relate to your business. So that my job is to then repeat back to you the media lifestyle of that person or group of people or groups of people that are buying your product, because it's only by really understanding who those customers are that we can truly deliver an effective media strategy, because our job is to put your message in front of the right people at the right time and try and eliminate wastage as much as possible. So if you've got an existing customer base, the starting point is interrogating it and understanding who these people are. And when we're delivering a launch or a new product, then obviously a lot of work has to go around why you've designed the product and who you think you're aiming it at. And then our job is to interrogate that and actually make sure that you're aiming it at the right people, at the right time, at the right cost. Because if those are wrong, then you've got a mismatch. And the number of people who think their product is bought by one type of person, but it's actually being bought by a completely different type of person, you'd be amazed at. Because we all think we know our customers, but until you really get under the skin of them, do you really know who your customers are?
So how do you find that out? What's the step you would take there?
Well, we can do it on a number of levels now. And I think the easiest way for us to do it is using things like, could be as simple as customer surveys. If we can get their postcodes, we can find out where they live, and the very fact we know where you live allows us to identify who you are as a type of person. Birds of a feather flock together. So the reality of it is the people who live in your street are a lot like you, even though you don't really want to admit that. We can do it by email address. We can actually cross-reference email addresses with residential addresses.
Yeah.
All of these things are a way for us to get a deeper understanding of who that group of people are. And then we have planning systems in the office which allow us to create a virtual group and throw questions at them. What cereal do you eat? What's your favourite television programme? How often do you go out? Do you like the cinema? Do you listen to commercial radio? Now, once we've done that type of analysis, then we can draw up a short list of the most effective way of reaching those people.
Yeah.
And then it's a dance of, well, what's our budget? How long do we want to be advertising for? And what's the effect we're trying to create? And that's how we get near a media plan.
And I think it's so surprising because, we've had a few clients over the years and they're like, oh no, our customer's definitely this. And as you say, it's a real shock when you run the data that actually it's, somewhere you didn't expect, living in something you didn't expect, and they've got jobs that you didn't expect. And, a lot of the time, most brands are hoping it's the ABC ones, wealthy, all that sort of stuff. But we've actually seen a wave of brands lately who've been so clever in terms of either the sort of ethnic sort of audience that they're going after, like definitely one type of citizen, and then also things like Tim Hortons, like who's a new coffee brand that's coming in, and they're definitely serving the market of people who just want a white coffee. They don't want any of the other jazz, So I think it's quite exciting, when you really start to interrogate the data, and I don't think A, enough companies do it, and I think B, people think it's too expensive to go and do it, and it really isn't. It's not crazy money we're talking, but the most important thing for people is make sure you get that postcode of people on your email database. It's a start, and the amount of times I come to you and go, I really need to find out who this customer is, and then you're like, got postcodes? No, and you're like, oh, Christ. So I think it's just having those basics set up, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's a challenge. Obviously, we work with large retailers as well as small, and what I find amazing is the different drive times that pertain to different types of businesses. And I think when we're talking about restaurants and food, how far will people travel for your product? Great question. Now, I live in North London. I'm very familiar with the local restaurant trade, and there are certain places that I can't get to via Deliveroo. Well, I'll actively get in a cab or drive there to pick up some food.
Yeah.
Other things are much more localised and much more particular. But I know if we're talking about social marketing and trying to engage with an audience and having a way of delivering messages to them, will allow you to drive and empower your marketing even before you get to a media plan. How do I talk to the people who buy my products? I think, let's talk about pizza. What do we get through our door every week? We get a pizza menu. Why do they do that? It's not cheap. They do it because it's a call to action. And they know that you put them in your drawer, and when you want a pizza, you go to your drawer and get them out. Yes, digital marketing has an influence in this. Yes, they're also active on the web and on mobile, but fundamentally, nothing works as well as a leaflet stuck on a fridge.
Yeah. Because
at the time of need, when I'm hungry, people look round where they are and think, oh yeah, I've got that menu and that's my favourite pizza place. There's that sense of immediacy and recency around that physical product delivered in the hand that brings that brand into that person's house. Well, that's going to be different from restaurant trade. But now when this line between eating in and eating out doesn't exist, there is food I can order to my house now which I would never have imagined could get onto my dinner table. It doesn't necessarily travel as well as I would like it to, but I'm certainly not stopped from trialling it, and that's a big change within the restaurant scene.
And what about starting off? So again, a lot of the audience that listen to this hopefully is in the food and drink sector, and actually the budgets are small, right? And I've been on the inside as well, and it can be from 200 grand a year when you're running 50 stores to maybe $1 million or whatever. But many of the brands out there are nowhere near. They might be one restaurant with 20 grand budget, whatever it is. But what advice would you be given to them to drive drive business.
I think a lot of the work we've done over the years, particularly when we've been working in locations which aren't front of mind or easily accessible, some of the simplest of tricks work very well. And I know from your time at Pret how important that front window was as the signposting. And I think anybody opening in any location needs to look at what's around them. Not just because it's who they're up against, but it's also, is there a marketplace for this product in this area at all?
Yeah.
And in the larger groups, they're spending a lot of money on restaurant location and analysis of audience and type of people who live in an area, because before they invest in a lease, they want to know if the people in that area are ever going to buy that product. I remember Archway, we never had a coffee shop.
Right.
There are 5 now. And that's in the last 10 years, if you like. People wouldn't invest in the area because they wouldn't believe anyone living in Archway would ever want a coffee. People would laugh at that now. So I think watching the number of restaurants open and shut because the lease is beyond them and their rates have been doubled, or because there just isn't a need for that product type in that area, I think that's, if I was opening a location, that's where I would start.
Yeah.
But then I think it is as simple as getting some printing down and making sure that people who are in your absolutely immediacy know you exist. And I think there's an article you posted a couple of weeks ago that I read with great interest, where I think you were saying that you need somebody to trial your restaurant 3 times before you develop an eating habit. And I thought that's wonderful. This idea of you have to keep trying. No good to get them in once and do a good job. Because if they come back the second time and service is poor or the food is cold or it just wasn't what they expected, it's that 3-time habit. And if you look at successful restaurants or any successful local shop, it has a reputation and it has a regularity of custom, and that's built on a good experience. And we'll forgive something if it isn't good, if we go there regularly. But if we've never been there before and it's not good, we're never going to try it again, because there's lots of other things locally asking for that experience. And if you engage with the audience when they're in your environment, they will like you. So you have an instant way of telling them what's going on in your business. You can get them to fill in a data capture form. You can give away a meal a week. You can give away a t-shirt. All of these things are very easily done. They're very low cost, but they allowed you to collect data. Now, I'm not going to talk about GDPR today because I'd rather people didn't say I got it wrong. But obviously that's a challenge. But it's also a great opportunity for anybody to start from scratch. Collect fresh data and use it. I think about restaurants I engage with on a personal level, and I get regular texts and emails from them telling me what's going on. Now, I probably only engage on certain levels because I have a certain need on them, but what they're sending out is keeping me informed, and I often use a 15% discount text when they've got a down trade, or what's happening on the lunch menu. Things like that are really good because I've already given them permission to market to me. I often go there, which is why I'm on their list in the first place. The worst that can happen is I'm not interested in what they're sending it to me. But the reality of it is it'll either prompt me to purchase or get me to consider them when I wasn't considering them before. So those are the simplest tricks to do within your own environment. And I think the challenge you have is finding the time to do it. If you're developing a menu or a location, you need to find either yourself or somebody within the business who can dedicate half an hour or an hour a day on local marketing. And that is about finding something to put in a newsletter, writing a poster for the window, coming up with a promotion or seeing what's happening seasonally. And I don't think that should detract from the core values of your business, which are service and quality. I think you have to stay true to those. But there's no reason why you can't promote that or come up with other ideas that accentuate what makes you special as a business. Because all we're doing as a media agency is taking that and pushing it out further. We give people reach. And I think if you've developed a strong local business, but people will travel for your product, then you need to reach more people. And then that's when you start talking about media buying. And I think 10, 15 years ago, we would have put an ad in the local newspaper and that would have done the job. Obviously, our world's changed. I can now buy household level television. So the old rules don't apply.
Yeah.
We can now draw a 2-mile circle around a fixed location and we can pretty much serve every channel manageable to that audience. And that's everything from leaflets, email, social media, digital display, mobile marketing, to I've bought every poster and every kiosk in the area, to I'm actually serving television to every Sky household within that 2-mile radius. To give you an example, we have a client that's based in Milton Keynes, which is a place very true to your heart.
The City of Dreams.
The City of Dreams.
Yeah.
But if you want to buy every television household in Milton Keynes using Sky, that's £6,000 a month.
Wow.
Now, it's a lot of money. But if you had
really
12 locations there, it wouldn't be, because every house would see your ad 4 times. And if you're trying to stimulate demand, drive engagement, and get people to consider coming to see you, there's no better way than doing it than television.
But people are spending £6,000 a month on their PR agency, who are, either maybe getting you 2 lines in time out, or maybe getting you the odd thing. But it's intangible, it's hit or miss. If there's a big news day, you might not feature, and no disrespect to PR and all that. But that you can hold in your hand, and you can go for £6,000 a month. I can hit every household in Milton Keynes. How many times?
4 times.
It's not bad.
So, and we talk about the media mix, and a single medium strategy is obviously a bit hit and miss. So, we can now buy cinema digitally. So you don't have to buy the pack or a TV region. If there's a cinema 100 yards down the road from your location, we can buy just that screen. And I remember growing up going to the cinema, and it used to be the local curry house.
It was.
And the local Mead taxi cabs. Well, we can now do that with a TV ad. So this idea of highly targeted broadcast media works. We can do it on Facebook. We can serve your ad in Facebook to everybody within 50 metres of your location. Now, clearly there's a challenge around assets and developing content that you can serve. But, that can be done on a handheld camera or an iPhone now, if you've got an edit suite.
Yeah.
So none of these are really barriers. It's all about thinking about what you're trying to achieve. And, something Mark and I are both familiar with is this idea of people spend a lot of money on a physical location. And, we'll go to a £1 million store, and then we'll be told they've got a £15,000 marketing budget. And it's this idea now that people make a film and then they spend the same amount of money they spent making the film as they do marketing it. So why is it okay to spend £400,000 fitting out a location and then only leaving £5,000 or £10,000 to tell people that location exists?
Well, I saw a wonderful, and I've maybe talked about it in a past podcast, so if I'm going over old ground, apologies, but it's such a good one, which I went to see Biz Stone speaking, and he is the founder of Twitter, and he said if he had £10 million, which is a lot of money, he would spend £1 million on the thing and £9 million promoting it.
Not on Twitter, I hope.
Not on Twitter, no. Well, do you see, as an aside, Snapchat's ad revenue's overtaking Twitter, apparently.
Yes.
Which is amazing. But, from that point of view, I think that's a good metric. And it's the same with buying a website or, all these things. Again, same thing with a website. What's your budget for your website? 15, 20 grand, whatever. What have you got for SEO? Oh, I'm not doing SEO. And it's like, so you're going to build something that no one's going to know about.
Yeah, and I think this idea of build it and they will come is wrong. I mean,
flawed.
There are certain places and certain types of businesses that in a fixed location are like a beacon because they're the only thing of that type within an area. But in the restaurant trade, that's not true, particularly if you've got a new concept. I think the numbers from Deliveroo and the way they talk about we all end up eating fundamentally the same thing, which is pizza, which I find genuinely very scary, but it's brutally true. If you want people to try something new, you've got to work awfully hard to get them to consider it, and you mustn't underestimate that. You know, this idea of effective frequency. We are very busy people. We see thousands of messages a day, and we absolutely ignore all of them. So you have to get me when I'm hungry, when I want to change, when I've got money in my pocket, when I've got nothing else better to do. So how many times do you have to send a message out to tick all of those boxes for me to go, oh, I'm going to go to that new joint down the road and try this new product? That is hard.
Well, there was some metrics around, it was like people needed to see an ad on social anyway 8 times before they would actually do something about it. So I think, again, people are, I'll do one ad. No, you need to do multiple. I'll do one creative. You need to do hundreds of different versions of that.
And I think that the frustration we see a lot is people do something once. They don't get an immediate effect, so they write it off as a channel. And I think
we did radio 6 years ago, and it didn't work.
People say that about digital. I've tried digital display. It doesn't work, you know. And so you did a banner 6 years ago, and nothing happened. So you've written it off.
I've done digital.
And every channel has a different role. We have a different emotions about how we perceive and react to different media, and they're not all direct. Some of them change the way we feel. Some of them change the way we do things or how we do something. So understanding that is key to building a media plan. If you want immediate effect, you do immediate things. But if you want to change the way people think or consider, you have to do different things. And I think frequency of message as well as reach are very important, as is creativity. Either make it so bad it's unignorable, or so good that it's unignorable. But everything in the middle is pretty much whitewash.
Yeah, it's true.
And that is hard, you know. I think a really good example of local marketing for me, there's a local restaurant where I live called Tutu Moo, and it's an Asian fusion restaurant.
Philip, right?
And they're fantastic. I love them. Great take, best takeaway. It's always fresh. It's always very tasty. And I remember they changed the menu, and I sent an email in pure frustration that they'd taken away the asparagus and chilli side dish that my wife and I loved. And I was amazed that I got a handwritten email back. Well, not literally handwritten, but I got from their representative. And really enthusiastic, really energised, really interested in what I had to say. And we had a long conversation, even to the point where I phoned the individual professionally because I wanted to know where they worked, because they were doing such an amazing job for the restaurant. And that has been consistent as they've rolled out. I think there's 5 or 6 now across North London. That level of service and attention to detail they've maintained. And that's really important, that giving a return path to your customers, taking on board comments. You know, not only did I get a response, they explained why they'd taken it off the menu. You know, why have you taken nasi goreng off the menu? It's very hard to prepare. It takes, you know, there was a logical response from that. You know, I think this idea of asking people, was the food good? Do you really want to know?
Well, you know what? Allegedly, where that originates from, I've seen it in some sort of QI type book, and it was actually to form the bond of contract. So you give the plate over, they've obviously, you're not paid for it, and in some countries still, I believe there's a couple, it might be, I'm probably wrong, but it was something like Sweden and New Zealand, I don't hold me to that, but it's still required. So if you aren't asked, is everything okay, this was back in the day or whatever, then you legitimately can go without paying because the contract hasn't been formed.
That's amazing.
I mean, allegedly, but I read it a few years ago. I'd go to New Zealand or Sweden, you know. But yeah, so I was always really intrigued by that. But I think now, for a lot of the time, it's, you know, to make sure that you know that you don't have to, you know, serve that person as a check back more than anything. with the Nando's little chicken and the stick, and then once that goes, they've checked back on you and all these things.
And I think what I notice with my consumer hat on, and you know, I have a young family and we eat out quite a lot, probably more than I should, is when there is an attention to detail around the food, whether it was actually good. And then actually, if something was wrong with the food or the service, not only do they acknowledge it, they do something about it. And that's not a discount. That could be a free dessert, could be a cup of coffee, could be a token for my next visit. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But what I really get and frustrates me is when it's done just purely for face and there's no real caring about the product or what's been delivered. That
and are you
frustrates
seeing
me.
that more in chain establishments than independents, or is it a mix? Or?
I think that's harsh. Having worked in the restaurant trade behind the counter, I think you're only as good as the management. So, you know, if it's a well-run location, it'll be really good. And I think, you know, I often take the office and we go and have Nando's. And I know where there's a good Nando's and I know where the bad Nando's are. And the good Nando's is great, and the bad Nando's we don't go back to.
There's no such thing as a bad Nando's. Is there?
Maybe it was just too busy on the day, but it certainly, the chickens didn't seem big enough. But clearly it's very hard to standardise food delivery across the board.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think having a 6-year-old, there are certain places he loves to go and the food is always consistent. I think Pizza Express, it's very hard to fault what is a very consistent product. And the guys are really good in there, and we go to lots of different ones wherever we are in London.
I mean, they seem to have got it so right. You know, they've sort of fought. I've not seen it. I've not been as aware of much of marketing that they used to do. I don't see as much. I don't know if it's I'm out with. I've not seen as much.
Got trapped into the 2-for-1, didn't they? There was that obsession with the 2-for-1 emails, and the office would always be. Everyone would be talking about that email, and I think they've stopped that, which is good because it actually becomes counterproductive.
Yeah, they have to pull away.
And they've got such a good high street presence, and actually, if they can just deliver a product consistently, they will get a share of retail pound. I think if you're the new train on that block, like Franco Manco, you're the new pizza house enjoying it. How do you get to that third visit? Because you're breaking into an established eating routine. You're trying to deliver something that's the same but different at the same time. And you might get the first, you might even get the second try, but can you get over that third try? Can you build that habit?
I think, I mean, I know the guys a little bit, and I think, it's quite tasty. It's quite Moorish, that, you know, the crust and the sourdough, and you know, they seem to have it right so well, especially one down at Brighton, a couple down Brighton now. And what's good is the training they haven't overexpanded too fast. And I think, you know, there's a lot of them, don't get me wrong, they've done well, but I'm glad to see them around 30 or 40 rather than 80 or 100 right now, because they could just have went nuts for it, you know, they've got enough backing and stuff, but I'm really pleased to see that they are being quite slow and steady about it, and they're keeping their values. They're almost like that Pacino's coffee cups used to get with the funny writing on and things like that. So they've got that kind of look, and it's a little bit, you know, eccentric or quirky, and they seem to have their own style, which I'm quite enjoying. And also the masters of a small menu, and no apologies for that. They're just like we don't really, you know, we're not a kids' gaff really, but they're welcome. We've only got limited beer, limited wine, limited menu. And actually, it is a bit take it or leave it, but then it's been the masters of something, and you know, isn't that,
you know, I know we've all seen it on television when people go into restaurants and they rip the menu apart, but you know, fundamentally, do it well, and don't try and be something to everybody. It is true in all walks of life, not just food. It's what's your core focus, and do it very well. I'm a huge fan of brunching, so I'm obsessed with the best breakfast in town, and you will catch me on Time Out and eating out and looking for the newest brunch place, and we'll get up at 8 in the morning to find somewhere and try a new breakfast. But actually doing a breakfast well is a great specialism. But it's like Max's sandwich shop, which is unique to Crouch End, but he does the most amazing gourmet sandwiches, and there's great reputation for that. But to
people
open
get greedy.
something that
Yeah.
everybody else has,
Yeah.
why would you expect that to be a success?
Well, there's a great phrase of you can't beat what you copy, which I think is a great phrase. But I think, people get greedy because it's, the day part you don't have, you end up wanting to go after.
Yeah.
Instead of, there's other ways to look at it. But then you've got private equity pressure or something like that. And it's like, oh, we're not very busy at breakfast. Let's do something at breakfast. And, and if you're a salad shop or a sushi place, it's a hard sell to push someone in for breakfast. If you're an amazing breakfast place, like actually the cafe downstairs on Mortimer Street, it's going to be really difficult for you to say that you do dinner.
And I understand that because
it's,
what I deeply sympathise with the pressure people are under with rent and rates. And I think, all of these changes in retail at the moment are being driven by an overly inflated property marketplace where people can't afford to trade because they can't afford the rents. Now, I don't really understand how that benefits the landlords. And
especially
I think,
if there's a turnover rent.
Yeah, something's got to change. Something's got to change where other retailers get access to it, or the high street will die, and people need high streets. But if you're going to open at a different day part, then you've got to think about, is there a marketplace in that day part? So have you been there at 8, 9 and 10 in the morning and looked at footfall? Because if there's only 20 people walking down that high street, it's going to cost you more to open than it is to shut. And maybe you don't open all of your stores, you only open some of them. Or you come up with a uniqueness which allows you to deliver unique product. Easy for us to say. But
I think you're right, and I think, you being actually unselfish and, your consumer hat on, it is like, do you know what? If your product's not right and it's at the wrong time and your location's rubbish and your service isn't good and blah, 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 no amount of marketing is really going to help you. And I think if you look in this, because the people only come and be disappointed and then you won't get them back. And, we're in the market at the moment, without doom and gloom, I'm staying really positive about it. People are trying their best, but there's some casualties out there. But I think some of the, companies that are in trouble, it's like they're having to market their way out of it. And actually, the spend fundamentally shouldn't be on marketing your way out of it.
no.
Because actually there's real things over time that have been, as you say, management of the site, the right staff, you're doing the wrong product, you've lost your brand North Star, all these things, I mean,
we've talked a lot about TGI Fridays and having grown up with it as a brand and the promise when it came to the UK and then what the iteration of it now, clearly is not how I would develop a burger joint in the UK because I think the product doesn't live up to the promise. And actually, if you're selling food, you want to sell good food.
Yeah.
And I think that's a challenge. I think, for me, looking at something like Byron, which I think is an amazing product, to see them struggling, I find quite worrying because it's a consistent product, it's always good, it's fresh, they're always refreshing the menu. But clearly it's expanded too quickly and the overheads are beyond the ability of the high street to carry.
Yeah.
But are they really at fault product-wise?
I think there's a few things, and definitely not to speak out of turn, but I think with TGI's, actually, I would question, have we outgrown it? So, are we really the demo to go there? Probably not, really.
I don't know, but if you think about when it opened and it was the family restaurant to go to and it was an experience, and I remember my friends trying to get jobs there and having to go through the training and get all of the badges. Their proposition was proper American food and the best burger in town and cocktails.
Cocktails, yeah.
Now, I remember taking the team to the flagship one in Covent Garden.
When did you go?
About 2-3 years ago. And I think we talked about it. And actually, it was just, it wasn't worth the money I paid for it. And that's what upset me the most.
Is the VFM?
It was expensive and it was not very good.
Yeah. I mean, I think they would be disappointed to hear that, but I know they're a bit of a success in a resurgence, or quite a big success actually. So, amazing Scottish lady took over it as the CEO, MD head, called Karen Forrester, and she actually turned its fortunes right around. So, it ended up being like 5 times EBITDA or something, like something great. But yeah, and I remember she went through a huge programme to actually strip every one of their badges, and they had to re-earn
Redo,
them.
yeah.
Which was great. But I mean, I don't really know what's been going on lately. But yeah, that's a shame. And then with Byron, it's a funny one. I think, weirdly, that sort of Sting thing that happened, unfortunately, they were just in a tough position, and I don't think that helped much. And then I think you're right, there's been some over-expansion. There's maybe operationally, I don't know if the product has stayed. I can't comment because I haven't been for a while, but I don't know if it stayed as it was. And I think also the burger market just got flooded.
Oh yeah.
And I think there was this moment where Byron felt like Honest Burger does, still looking independent, and all of a sudden it was just like, oh, that's a bigger thing now. They're kind of popping up everywhere. Whereas I think Honest have kept it small. I think Meat Liquor have continued to do an amazing job. I love them so much. And those kind of guys. I think Five Guys is actually really good, really good. And then you've got some of the more cult ones like Bleecker, which still to me is the best burger in London by a long way.
We must do that.
Oh, it's amazing. So I think there's just I think it just kind of happened that they were the poster boys and girls and whatever, and they were going up, and then just this flood kind of happened after them. The market changed. People went a bit anti the C-word chains, this kind of stuff. And yeah, I just think they kind of got caught up in it. And I don't know if they, when they stopped caring or anything. I think they do. I think their merchandise is great. I think the staff were always good. I loved the playing cards stuff. There was so much cool about it.
Yeah.
The milkshakes were great. So I can't put my finger on it, and I'm sad about it because I did, really, really admire it. Still do for a lot of it, but yeah, I hope it works out. So it's a real tough one. So just a few other things on media then. When we're talking about sort of channels, are you seeing some good value for money in certain channels? Is like radio super good value for money right now, or what are you seeing out there in terms of what you think is actually quite cheap and what it brings back, or does it all know its worth?
That's a really tough question.
Okay, you don't have to answer. I was just wondering.
Yeah, clearly, there are certain things that always look like very good value for money, and I think the trick with anything is measurement. And I know we've had challenges around measuring the effect of activity in the post.
Yeah.
And you and I know if you put the right poster in the right place, your footfall will go up anything from 20 to 50% just because somebody knows you've got a restaurant there. So you can't really get away from the physicality of that. We also know that digital's great for reporting and accountability. But does it drive footfall? And what do you need to use with digital to drive footfall? And that's when I think you can start looking at things like radio, or digital radio, which is very interesting, which is served programmatically. There's some great examples at the moment of the combination of using physical posters with digital radio, and you only hear the ad if you walk past the poster. Now that's clever. Now, if I can do that for your network of restaurants or locations, then we get that superbly clever. And I can marry that up with social and digital display. That's when you start to make change, and you're using all of the attributes of the media, but you're doing it at scale. A lot of these things, if you do them at a very minute level, you're never really going to learn lots. You have to kind of commit to them. And I think Deliveroo at the moment is running a fantastic example of digital radio, and they're running 1 million pieces of copy. So the copy is loaded into a massive programmatic hopper, and depending on where you live and what time of day, the copy changes based on the preference that the site is seeing. So if people eat a lot of Chinese at 3 p.m. in N19, then if you're listening to digital radio at that time of day, you'll be served a Chinese ad.
Ooh.
And that changes where you are in the country at any time of day. And it's all done in nanoseconds, programmatically. So that's, I think, really using the most modern technology in media to deliver clever messaging. Because the challenge you're always going to have is one message for all. It doesn't really cut through this idea of personalisation, or understanding what different product groups and customers look like at different times of day. Well, within digital we can do that. Mm-hmm. We can see what you're looking at, so we can serve you certain messages. We can frequency cap. Are you sending the same people the same messages every week? Well, you can send everybody one message a week, and then if you see them again, you send them another, and if you see them again, you see them a third. Yeah. That's much more intelligent use of media planning, so that you're controlling your distribution of messages and what people see.
Because I think there's so many, marketers out there as well that just due to busyness or budgets or, it is that one ad and then that's it. And I think you're right, it's that media, the media consumption where they are, but then what is ad 2, 3, 4 that has to be different to get them along the journey and get them up the buckets,
And I think as a media agency, with my sales hat on, we're a service-based business. We're never going to be the biggest, we're never going to have the most people, we're never going to be the cheapest. But what we will do is give dedicated service and attention to detail where, it is all about placement and the buy and delivery, as well as the strategy, because a great strategy badly delivered isn't going to work. So actually you've got to think about hierarchy of messaging, distribution of messaging, and delivery of messaging, because environment is everything. If you want to accentuate how that works, then put it in a good place. Make it relevant to the target market so they engage with it. Just to do is often not enough. So find people who care about your business, not people who just want to take the brief. Did it work? Did you sell any more product? Are you measuring footfall? Would you like me to help you measure your footfall? Are they looking at your analytics? Are they helping you control that growth? Are they engaged and active in the principle, or are they just spending your money because that's how they earn money?
Well, I think, just on that point, what's interesting, and obviously both sides of the fence, and I think it is a good thing to do to actually give your agency some skin in the game. So if you say, if you help us meet that brief and over-deliver on it, or actually as part of it, get paid, you need the money to do whatever you're doing, but actually put some incentives in there to actually make the agency feel part of it. I think it's always a smart thing to do.
Coming from within an agency, the simplest things of when somebody says thank you, when somebody sends you some biscuits, if somebody takes you out for a meal, go an awfully long way. And that's an exec all the way through to somebody like me, a business owner. It's when somebody thinks about you, it makes all the difference. And if you want to get value from the people who work for you, give them a little bit of love, and you'll get twice as much back. In terms of skin in the game, I think commercially, the media landscape wants to grow. They want people to spend money. We want people to do advertising. So more and more we are doing deals around equity for marketing. We're doing...
Just explain that.
Well, we're doing deals where people are exchanging an aspect of equity for marketing funds. So often people build businesses but they don't have any marketing left. So they're actually willing to give a share of the business in exchange for marketing funds because they need some fuel in the engine. And they've got a fixed location, they've got this machine, but there's no petrol on it. If you want some petrol, give somebody a bit of the machine and they'll give you the petrol, and together you'll go somewhere. I think, the idea of marketing driving results and people being rewarded on results, I think that's active and available and being talked about in the business. You've got to be realistic about it because nobody wants to work for free. And it's got to be achievable, because if it isn't achievable, why would somebody do it? And often that's why that deal falls down, because you do one iteration of it, it doesn't work, and both parties walk away from each other. I think the idea of half and half, you pay a bit and the rest is done on reward, works very well and is very active within the media landscape. And I think media owners are willing to talk to people about these certain things. The question is your agency talking to you about these types of things? Because it's a lot easier for me to take a brief, spend the budget, than it is for me to come up with a really creative route to market that stretches everybody. And actually, if you're only paying 3% for your media planning and buying, you're not going to get that agency going that extra level because there's nothing in it for them. It's purely a booking service. But if you want a business partner, then you've got to reward them in the same way you would reward anybody.
And I think part of it as well is just, as a marketer, staying open-minded, because so many marketers, and I've been guilty of it myself, you're so personal when you market. So you go, oh, no one reads that title, or I don't listen to commercial radio, oh my God, I listen to Six Music or whatever. You know, and I think it's just shut down there. And again, going back to your statement way back at the start, which is know your customer inside out, know how they live their day, and this is something you taught me. You know, do they listen to the radio as they're having a shower? Are they listening to digital radio or music or Spotify as they go into work? Are they reading an audiobook? Or are they surfing on... You know, how can you stalk them for their entire day? And once you've got that knowledge, I mean, it's so powerful. And then if you get that atypical, you know, person, and as you say, clone that out, you're on to a winner as a kick-off anyway.
And I think we all tend to personalise because that's human nature. And I find that really interesting because obviously in my career I've done everything from women's fashion to cars to finance, you name it. I've traded in most target markets, and when you do the audience work, clearly that's not who you're marketing to. Yeah. But when I sit with a client now, or if we chat about a new project, I'm the first person to instantly come up with the answers A, B, and C. Yeah. But clearly there's too many years of experience that allow me to do that and have a sense of the ability to do it. But then I'll go back to the office and we'll run it and we'll check it and we'll do it, because you're right, I'm not a 25 to 44 year old ABC1 woman who likes to buy fashion, and I'm not a C2DE person who likes to buy fish and chips. So you do need to cross-reference that. And if you're an owner, of course you build a business based on what you wanted that business to be. Yeah. So you're mirroring, you're thinking everybody's coming in is like me. Yeah. But actually that's not probably how you're perceived from the outside. Yeah. So people are gravitating you for reasons you may not even understand. Yeah.
And once you do,
then you can start really pushing that back out and you can talk to them. Yeah.
So I'm just quite conscious of your time too, because we've been gassing away for an hour before we've even started recording. I was thinking about the last couple of things, in terms of future stuff. So, what's coming down the track? I know you don't have a crystal ball or anything like that, but, what do you think we're going to see in terms of development of, because people are saying digital's everything and bus stops are dead and what's going on, do you think?
Well, I think it's the opposite, actually. I think that there is a physicality of the real world that is very effective, and I know we're all going to go and see Ready Player One, and we're not buying Oculus glasses yet and switching ourselves into virtual reality when we get home, and we spend a lot of our time bringing digital brands into the real world because there's only so much you can do within a digital environment. So it is the media multiplier effect, the layering of different channels together, which give the best output. So as a client, think about an asset or an idea that works in multiple formats. Be true to it and make sure everything you push out accentuates what it is you're trying to say. But do be flexible. Don't have these ideas of, that will never work, I don't believe that, I don't watch this. If the media agency is saying we've done the work and we're telling you that this audience likes doing this thing, give it a go. Because what it's doing is it's reducing the distance between you and your customers. And actually, that's what a good media planner does. But if you're going immediately, I don't like radio or I don't like television, then actually that's the nearest thing to your audience. You've just taken it out of your marketing toolbox. And that's going to restrict your opportunity to sell.
And what are we going to do about, everyone under the QSR brands marketing? What would you do to I know it's not your job to persuade them to do it, but what would you do to reassure them that actually going above the line is a good idea? You know, the smaller brands.
I think clearly give your agencies an opportunity to prove you wrong. Clearly, I can look at a client product and I can understand the marketplace and I can have a good understanding of what it takes to shift the dial. Now you can do that if somebody is talking to you realistically. Adam, if I want a 20% uplift in footfall or sales this year, what do I have to do? They might not like the answer, but fundamentally it's business analysis, and we do it a lot. Now, we will empower our clients to go to board and fight for the money, or they're owner managed most of the time, and they'll either want to do that or they won't. You know, the idea of a limited area test has never been more viable. Take a store or 5 stores and try it. We can ring fence the location, we can measure what's happening pre and post and during, and we can tell you what that test would cost to replicate nationally. Then you can understand it. And I think our days of working on different projects, we learnt that. You know, the challenge is there is a tipping point, and if you don't get over the tipping point, it's not going to work. And if you can't be realistic about that within the business, or that your agencies aren't being honest with you, it's always going to go wrong. So bear that in mind. If you've got 20p on the table and somebody's saying you need 40, they're not doing it just because they want you to spend 40. They're doing it because they want it to work, so you keep doing it. None of us want to do anything once. And actually, everything we know about marketing is you need to keep talking to people. So doing something once a year isn't going to keep your business going. If you find something that works and it drives growth, keep doing it and you'll keep growing. Do it once or twice and 3 times and then go, well, I'll save that money now. You will gradually watch that improvement decline over an extended period of time. And the same is true of creative as in media. You keep it fresh, you keep it energized, and you keep talking to people, and they'll keep talking to you. You stop talking to them, then you'll fail to have space in their busy life, and they'll move on. You know, don't be a redundant brand. Heritage is great, but it's also got to be real and alive and fresh and tangible.
And relevant. Stay relevant. I think it's such a good point, you know, where people come into us and they've just got a fixed budget in their head without any other things, and they think, oh, you know, 12 grand seems like a good figure, whatever it is. And you just go, well, look, let's come back from the whole thing. And it's like, what do you want? What problem have you got? Oh, I want my sales to go up by £500,000 a year. Okay, so let's break that down. What's your average sale? You go through all this stuff. And then you're great at then going, well, to get that to convert across all these channels, you're going to need this kind of spend to get the eyeballs and the or the ear holes or whatever, you know, to listen to stuff as well as going on. And then it's a much richer conversation. And as you see, with that 20 pence on the table, if you did give me 40 and I gave you a tenner back, would you be in? And it's that sort of thing, you know, where people are limiting themselves by going, I can afford to lose 5 grand. And it's like, well, that's not the way to look at it. Don't determine the budget till you figure out what is it you're trying to do and what that would take to get you there.
You know, and that's the big challenge, isn't it? You know, it's when we talk about clients and they're running pay-per-click marketing, and you look at PPC and you go, okay, so I'm funding the ability of my business to meet demand. And that demand is either generic or brand led. Am I fully funded, or do I switch off at 4 o'clock every day because the budget's gone? Is that marketing, or is that sales commission that I'm paying to Google? Should that really come out of my marketing fund if I've got all these people searching for my product? And all I'm doing is making sure I appear when they look for me. Is that really marketing? Surely marketing is about generating demand. It's about getting people to start to look for my product. So there's a whole skill set around running an efficient machine that allows you to meet demand for any business. But then really the next stage is, how do I grow my business, keep it energized and find new people willing to buy it? How do I take my message out to a broad audience? That's not meeting a pay-per-click search. That's just meeting demand.
I think, that argument with the sales guys would be a fun one. Sales versus marketing, sales usually wins because they're just a lot rougher. They play a lot rougher than the marketing guys.
They do, but it's, I think any business that comes to marketing in a desperate position makes life really hard for everybody because you've almost left it too late.
Yeah.
I would say if you're opening new locations or you've got a new concept, plan marketing in at the beginning.
Yeah.
Take a larger percentage of the whole for marketing, give it a chance to surprise. How many restaurants and locations do you see that last 6 to 12 weeks because they didn't have anything left to carry on trading, because they spent everything on the fit out? How many amazing locations have you been to and you've walked past and you go, oh, I can't believe that's gone, that was amazing.
I didn't even get them.
And part of that is not paid for stuff. That is all the earlier stuff we talked about, which is just collecting data and talking to people and growing that presence. And if you're not the type of person to be posting and promoting, then do find somebody who can do it effectively for you, because it's going to be the best few £100,000 a month you spend, because it's your outreach, it's your social voice. That's really key.
Well, we always talk about ABCD, so always be collecting data. And that doesn't mean it has to be an email address or whatever. It could be your customer's dog's name, so that you've got a relationship with them the next time, whatever it is, which is always a big deal. So one final thought, one shoeism, as we might call it, just in terms of saying to people, what they can do to move their business forward. What are you sort of thinking? So just out to the food and drink industry, they haven't been tempted to press the button and press go. What would you say?
Ask the question, what can marketing do for me? So get beyond retail location environment and then talk about how do I take my environment out to my customer base and give it a test. Take one location, find out what it actually costs to market that location and see the difference that makes. And then from an understanding of reality, plan it in to roll it out. But don't try and do too little in too many places. Do something well and give it a really good try. And then you'll get the success you're looking for. And look for people who are going to be honest with you. Look for people who are going to challenge your brief, try and work out exactly what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it, and make sure they understand the commerciality of what you're talking about. What does this mean to the business and to the people in the business? And then they will be more engaged and they'll deliver better product for you.
And I think, just finally, one of the things that you always said to me, which I think about all the time, was just do something. It's better than doing nothing, which I think is a good place to wrap this up. So listen, thanks so much for coming over. I know Pleasure. You're super busy, and everything's going super well at Smithfield, so proud of you and pleased for you. So thanks for all your tips and tricks today, and really hope that it inspires people to do something.
Give us a call, let's do it.
Always be closing. Very
ABC.
Good. Very good. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
A huge thank you to Adam Shoefield from the amazing Smithfield. He's done such a great job in terms of growing that agency, growing an amazing reputation, and always putting the client first. Some really great examples from Adam, and he's such a passionate foodie. He cares so much about the success of this industry that he's definitely worth talking to in terms of driving your business forward. There's some links about Smithfield and also some other links in terms of media advice in the podcast notes, so be sure to check those out. Please, please, please do, if you've got a second, rate, review, share and subscribe to the podcast, just to make sure that you don't miss an episode going forward. Thanks so much to the exec production team, Gabby, Gaz and Mihal, for all of their hard work in putting the Spectacular Marketing podcast together. I'm Mark McCulloch, and this was Spectacular.